Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Concise Conversations with Kathy and Jackie. Happy Friday. Hope everyone had a really good week. Today's guest is Dr. Jimmy Shaw of Florence City Schools. We're so happy to have him here and welcome Dr. Shaw. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Dakota. We're delighted to have Dr. Shaw as our guest today. As you know, the purpose of Concise Conversation is to reach out to our network members to provide information and good cheer. And I can't think of anyone that we'd rather talk to more than you, Dr. Shaw. Welcome to Concise Conversations.
Thank you, and thank you all for having me. It's a pretty great honor to be in the name of some of those people you've already had on. So,
Well, we are delighted that you are with us today, and I know Jackie is looking forward to talking to you, and she's going to ask the first question.
okay.
Jackie, you're on mute.
I guess I didn't talk over y'all then. I just echo what Kathy said, Dr. Shaw. It's just really a privilege to have you with us, and we so look forward to your sharing with the audience what you have been learning over these last weeks, months, and I guess years as well. So I wanted to start out with just kind of noting that I am aware that Florence City Schools has a motto, a slogan, a mission. I don't know what you call it, but it is your brand. And it is this: your system, our community, one Florence. And I know that that was intended to really communicate to your community the extent to which you, the school system, feel a part of that community and the extent to which you invite them to own the public schools. So community, important theme. I am wondering how during these last months in particular, you have been able to build on the strength of that community school connection and maybe how you've been able to enhance it.
So I think I've said this before in an interview that this particular incident with COVID-19 had the opportunity to really rip our community apart, so to speak, and really rip our relationship between our community and schools apart, or it could bring it closer together. And I feel like it brought us closer together. We felt like we were pretty uniquely prepared to provide our system and community people with devices because we were a one-to-one district, and that vision for one-to-one came from my predecessor, Dr. Womack. But even it goes further back than that. Her predecessor, Kendi Barons, put together several internet connection points all throughout schools. And even before that, a guy named Dr. Ed Barney had what he called Vision 21, where he kind of set the structure for all of this. So when this pandemic hit, we felt really good about our ability to give devices to students and really have distance learning in place. But what we found after we sent a survey out in about 3 weeks after this started was that two things really came to light from our community. And one was our parents felt like they really were at the mercy of the students, so to speak, as far as the students held all the cards because all the information was going to students, whether it's via Canvas that was going to students or whether it was Google Classroom going to students, and they really felt like that they didn't know what was happening. And so one adjustment that we made was that we asked our teachers in particular, and our teachers really saved the day on this one. Our teachers really reached out to parents and started communicating, in mass to parents about assignments and what was expected of their children. And a pretty neat and unique thing happened. It actually strengthened the amount of communication and the bond, in my opinion. And feedback that I got from parents, it strengthened that bond between the classroom teacher who cares for that parent's child and the parent. I mean, I'm a parent myself, so I can speak to the special bond that happened when Miss Dale, or Miss Thaxton or Mr. McKinnon would reach out to us as parents and our children. And I think that was a big deal all over the community to really see the strength and communication lines between the actual classroom teacher and the parent. And it just grew there. Our principals did a really good job of sending out communications as well in mass, but it was that one-to-one, hey, you know my child, you touch my child, you teach my child, and now you are communicating with me one-to-one. And the other thing we found out was like people miss the presence of people. So our parents wanted more synchronous videoing. And so we were a little bit afraid at first of how that would go, but because all the bad stories we heard about, synchronous communication. Tech director Chris Westbrook put a lot of pieces in place. We started to do more synchronous classroom teaching, and it was a beautiful thing. It was beautiful.
As I was listening to you, Dr. Shaw, it sounds like some of the things that have happened during this time of isolation, you're going to bring forward, even when we are able, hopefully, God willing, to get back together. So what are some of the things that you've learned as a result of listening to parents, the almost 15,000 contacts you've had with them? And how do you think that's going to affect August and beyond?
So you're right. So one of the stats is we did an asynchronous closing institute this year. And one of the stats that I talked to our people about was we'd had well over 14,000 parental contacts from classroom teachers to parents. And I can tell you that is one piece that I think that has impacted us, as you said, from not only just COVID, but this will carry through beyond. And it's the idea that whether we're using a learning management system like Canvas or whatever we're using, that piece of the parent being informed about what's going on kind of as a blanket in mass is something that can be done. I'll be honest with you, we didn't come up with the way to do it. One of our teachers did, and parents were emailing me saying how great this teacher was doing with communicating with their kid. And so we started investigating, what are you doing? And it just kind of spread throughout the district. So that piece definitely will come forward as we work more. I think our teachers see the benefit of it as well. Another thing that came out of this is we already had a pretty strong 7 through 12 virtual school as a school system. So we had some fears about K-6 learning on the virtual realm, but this experience helped open some doors and opportunities for us to learn there. So we are definitely going to expand our expertise. We have a group of veteran distance learning teachers led by Dr. Heiss. It was at our high school, who's currently our assistant superintendent, and Karen Sammons, who's been doing virtual learning for a long time. So we're going to expand that piece and really go virtual K-12 and have that opportunity. And a third big lesson for us was assessments, both good and bad. But one of the things that we learned is that we have to have a tighter, higher integrity approach to being able to assess students that are going through distance learning rather than having them come physically to a building.
So I'm wondering, with regard to this whole issue of assessment, there's both formative assessment, those things that we learn while children are in the process of learning, and the summative side. Mm-hmm. Would you say that there were equal challenges with regard to the two, or did teachers find one of those more challenging?
Our teachers did I'm not going to say we did the best job in the world, but our teachers did a pretty good job at formative assessments. And I think it was based on some of the platforms that we were using, and some of the goes back to communication pieces again, with our students being able to submit work to teachers, and teachers taking the time to do small group feedbacks. I mean, I'm getting emails from parents saying, hey, so-and-so teacher met with me and 7 other students to give some feedback on thus such a lesson based on the work day. I mean, that is formative assessment in my book at its finest. Yeah. In my own house, I saw small group feedback in mathematics, where one of my kids was at a different level in math, so he was in a different feedback group. That was beautiful. The summative assessment is where we just did not see the ability to be able to equitably assess, and because we ran into situations where most people think it is just a lower socioeconomics that did not have internet connection. And we ran into some of that, and Casey Reed, our federal program director, and his ladies did a great job of like trench warfare, going from person to person, calling parents and finding out who needed help and contacting Comcast. But there was also some more affluent parents who may have lived on the lake who did not have a really strong internet connection either. And so we had some internet connection issues there, even though everybody had a device. And the other thing we found was honestly, like, we don't have a way to safely test, and that was a problem.
You know, it's just when you think about what happened is one week we were thinking that maybe the virus was going to hit Alabama, and then the next week we closed. I mean, it was so quick. And you've already talked about learning from teachers and administrators, you know, finding the best practice and moving it forward. I know that teachers miss their students, and students miss their teachers, and you've got parents now that are both parents and teachers, you know, teachers as well.
Yes.
So, what are you doing related to the social emotional aspect of serving kids and parents and their families?
Honestly, the first thing we did was not something that we did as a leadership team, as much as it was, again, I'll say, came from our teachers and administrators. Like, their heart and understanding for what our students were going through, and our teachers' heart and administrators' heart and understanding of knowing they are parents as well as educators, and just having a heart for our folks to reach out to our people, to not necessarily punish or be draconian in what we were doing, but to really try to make this about learning. And, you know, in this tough time, as we knew, you know, we had kids who may be working night shift at a restaurant, a fast food restaurant, just to pay the bills at this point. So we tried to keep the human element in that, and some people did not appreciate that piece, but as a whole, we feel like that our parents and our faculty and staff appreciated this is about learning, but this is also a human story about keeping that human element. I will also tell you that we are looking at a program, a social emotional learning program, that we're testing out with our teachers beginning this fall, that will give us the ability to have some survey type feedback on a weekly basis on how mentally how we are doing, socially and emotionally that we are doing, and maybe or be able to provide some intervention and assistance. So we're excited about that. We're not quite ready to say everything about that, but Casey Reed has really been working on that, and that is in the works, and we are excited about it. But our people's heart have shown through in this whole process.
You know, Jimmy, as I reflect on your messages, and wow, what powerful ones, several things really come through. I think the fact that you have remained throughout flexible, that you've sought feedback from all parties involved, and you've been willing to change. And, you know, that is learning, to the point of Kathy's question. And then I think it just strikes me what a team effort you have had influence with, from administrators to teachers to parents to students. And we know the power of collaboration and the power of learning in community. And so back to that community, you have obviously not been only enriched as a community, but you've learned as one. And I really appreciate your reflections today. Kathy?
And I echo everything that Jackie said. In fact, the word that first came to mind was that flexibility. But I also think about nimbleness. You and your teachers and your administrators responded almost overnight. You had set the stage by being a one-to-one digital thing, but you also thought about the internet connectivity. You thought about those kids that needed more help, and listening to you tell the story about your sons and how they were at different places and getting what they needed was really, really exciting. So this 15 minutes just goes by way too quickly. And both Jackie and I have so enjoyed talking to you and learning from you, Dr. Shaw. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank y'all for having me. If I can say one more thing, and I know our 15 minutes is up, but probably one of the things that we're most proud of in this district is that we were able to serve over 50,000 meals to families in a 7-week period. And that would not have happened if we had not had our child nutrition program people to volunteer. They were the real stars here. Our custodians to help us clean, our administrators and teachers. We had 70 teacher volunteers to come and administrative volunteers to come and help serve. And I think that set the stage for all of the other pieces.
Wow.
A caring community. Well, it's really, we learn every time we're with you, Dr. Shaw, and I can't wait for the opportunity to face-to-face converse and keep on learning.
I miss you all greatly.
As do we. Back to you, Dakota.
Awesome. So, my slide went away. There it is. Next week's guest is Paige Rainey, Chief Academic Officer of Guntersville City Schools. Again, we just want to thank Dr. Shaw for being our guest today. I think it was really nice for us to all get some nice warm feelings and good news after this week that we've had. So hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.